Good afternoon, everyone. This is John Morgan here with 2020, one of our monthly webinars. I want to, as always, thank you all for taking the time to spend with us today. What we're going to be doing today is actually interviewing or getting wonderful tips from some of our top users of 2020. We have our 5 Design Inspiration Award winners from the end of last year. But you'll see that we have our winner from the traditional category, from the transitional category, from the cloud category, the modern category, and our Expert Choice Award winners. All are joining us today. And I just want to give you a quick overview of the designs and the designers that we're going to talk about. And I'd like to introduce each of our award winners, and then we're going to go through and take a look at their award-winning designs, let them talk about them a little bit, and then I'm actually going through some of their other designs and talking about best practices and them sharing their expert advice on how to get the best renderings possible in 2020. First of all, joining us today are Anthony Johnson. Anthony is located in Northern Virginia. We have Jennifer Mariana, who's out of Brooklyn, New York. Welcome both Anthony and Jennifer. On our second page here, our last 3 designers are going to be Jessica Almberg. We're going to have Taryn Barth and Kaylee Helgett as well. You can see their companies attached, Heritage, Paragon, and R. Henry. So let's start off with Kaylee. So Kaylee, welcome to our event today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Okay, so as John said, I'm from R. Henry Construction, a design build firm located in Mankato, Minnesota. Some of you may have seen a Facebook Live at KBIZ, so maybe you've heard some of this already. But we do both custom homes and remodeling for residential and commercial settings. So my day-to-day basis and what I do changes from drafting floor plans, 3D renderings, cabinet designs, everything. So it's always fun. This kitchen rendering, the cabinet colors are automatically selected through my cabinet manufacturer's 2020 catalog. So the cabinets that I use are through Star Mark, and their colors are awesome. They are generated as closely as they can to the real colors, so I love that. And I will mention some of these later on, but like the backsplash, I import seamless backsplash texture. To get the correct image, you can either go to the manufacturer's webpage or just Google Images. I use the decor items from 2020 Cloud, flooring and everything. The stools are from just 2020's generic catalogs, which are awesome to use, and then within them you can customize the textures and fabrics that you want there. This kitchen is not yet finished, but cabinets are in and will be installed any day now, so it's pretty exciting, and I finally get to see it come to life.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. And I actually had a chance to see the full rendering of this. This is just looking at one side, but it's a rather massive kitchen. And I have a quick question for you. I'm looking here, the book and the glasses and so forth. Where did you get those types of accessories? Because they really render well in your 2020.
Yes, those are awesome. They are actually from 2020 Cloud decorative catalogs.
Cool, cool. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So thank you, congratulations, and let's move on to our next award winner. That's going to be Jessica Almberg. And Jessica, thanks for joining us. Would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your design?
Yes. My name is Jessica, as John said, and I am a project manager at Heritage Home Decor and Design, located in Yorkville, Illinois. I've been in the industry and using 2020 for about 10 years now. I graduated from Illinois State University with a degree in interior design, but most of my 2020 knowledge has been self-taught through a lot of trial and error and watching videos on the internet. In the featured kitchen you see, she had found her inspiration on a blog, and the blog had featured inset cabinetry with a painted perimeter and on the dark stained furniture island. She wanted to recreate the blog, but she also wanted to add the rustic wood beams on the ceiling. She was removing walls and making her kitchen bigger, So using the 3D visualization of 2020 was huge, so she could actually see how her space would come to life. Probably my biggest challenge in this kitchen was that the cabinets and modifications she was looking for weren't exactly standard modifications through the cabinet manufacturer. So I had to use the variables tab a lot to change the cabinet so that she could see how each cabinet would look in her new kitchen. The client is thrilled with her new kitchen, and she can't wait for the years to come and the memories to be made. In my years of using 2020, I have learned that the flexibility that 2020 offers is key, and the options are endless, and that you just need to keep learning and growing with the company.
Cool. And Jessica, we're going to share a lot of those today. I really appreciate you doing that. If I could ask you one quick question, because I have a whole bunch of questions for you later. Your wood beams, because I think that they really stand out in this room. What did you use to create the wood beams?
I just did the 3D shape and then added a texture to it.
Nice. Did you use one of our standard wood texture shapes, or did you import a texture?
Standard.
Standard. Got it. All right. Well, awesome. And again, thanks for joining us. I have a whole bunch of other questions for you later on. Next, I want to introduce Taryn to you. Taryn comes out of Ontario, and you can see she is the winner of our Modern Contemporary category. Taryn, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your design?
Yeah, definitely. I just want to start out by saying thank you for this opportunity. I am a kitchen designer at Paragon Kitchens. Paragon Kitchens is a premier purveyor of luxury custom cabinetry and has been building wow kitchens in southwestern Ontario for about 30 years now. I've been part of the Paragon Kitchens team since 2010, and Paragon is where I was introduced to the 2020 design. I've taken many self-tutorials, webinars like this one, and coworkers' advice to advance my skills. About 4 years ago, our team began offering realistic photo renderings to clients as we wanted to provide a more immersive design experience for them. In this modern kitchen design, we started off with a new custom-built home with very open concepts, with soaring 14-foot ceilings. We were able to play off the open feeling, yet create a warm and inviting space by forming framed-out areas to set the scale for the cabinets. The horizontal graining on the walnut cabinets also keeps your focus in the cabinetry. Key elements in this design are the asymmetry in the design while keeping balance with the built-in appliances on both walls. The minimal amount of upper cabinets lends to a stunning focal point of the book-matched Neolith treatment behind the cooking surface, whereas the dark floors ground the space and the contrast of the matte white cabinetry and the walnut accents play off the sheen of the quartz countertops. So again, thank you for this honor, and I will talk to you about all the different things that are in the design as well.
And Taryn, we're going to ask a lot of questions later on about countertop, because your countertop definitely stands out to me. But I know most people, the first thing they notice is the wall treatment behind your cooktop.
Yeah.
What did you use to do that? Just briefly, and then I'm going to move on to the next one.
I used a quartz countertop design, and then I had to actually book match it before putting it in as a texture.
Got it. So you just changed the horizontal and the vertical dimensions, and then book matched it and laid it up against it? Nice. Okay, yeah. Very nice. I noticed that in a lot of the designs, so awesome. So let's move on to Jennifer's kitchen. Jennifer's the winner in our cloud category, and Jennifer's out of Brooklyn, New York, and East Coaster just like me. So Jennifer, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your kitchen?
Sure. My name is Jen LaMariana. I joined Signature Interiors after receiving my bachelor's degree in industrial design from Pratt Institute. It was at Signature that I first started using 2020, and it was a lot of trial and error in working within a studio environment to establish, my skill set. Signature is a full-service interior design firm. We do everything from law offices to private homes to renovations. This kitchen, that one, was a private home that actually was half completed, and the new owner took it over, and some of the character of the design was already established, such as the ceilings, but they wanted more of a transitional aesthetic, but they had to incorporate the ceiling that they weren't going to rip out. That was actually quite beautiful. So my role as design director, I met with our principal designer and kind of thought of a direction that we could possibly steer the client into. And then I kind of get to have fun because it's the first round with the client. And I can kind of get to play and push them outside of their exact comfort zone. So with this, I have a new love for all of these beautiful rift-cut oak veneers and that are kind of trending right now. And I decided to kind of push the client's boundaries and try to get them into kind of a warmer texture with that.
Jennifer, if I could interrupt just for a second. You mentioned
Sure.
the awesome ceiling that you have there, that they have. You have an awesome ceiling in your drawing. What did you use to create that ceiling?
It's mostly miscellaneous shapes, and then within, I believe it's the architectural catalog, there is a molding ceiling detail that I just kind of fit within the miscellaneous shapes.
Nice, nice. And I'm going to ask you about that again later on, and I'll show everybody in 2020 where you're choosing those items. I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there something else you wanted to say real quick before I move on to Anthony?
No, that's good. Talk later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for joining us today. And let me move on to our last winner, which is Anthony Johnson. He's our Expert Choice winner. Anthony, would you give us a little bit of your background and tell us about your design?
Yeah, hi. My name is Anthony Johnson, and originally from Nigeria, and I came into the United States about roughly 5 years, going to the 6th year now. But before coming to the United States, I've already been practicing as an architect. So my core concept is design. And I came in contact with 2020 design at my first job with the Home Depot. And it was version 9, and I was like, wow, what's this? And eventually, I looked into a lot of trials, just like every other person, and I found John Morgan's video on YouTube. And that really helped me out in understanding what 2020 was all about. Regarding, I run a company right now. It's called Kitchen Ital Design Plus. The Ital is just like an addition to the kitchen itself, and strictly a design company. Now, about this design, the client nothing was actually in this design. It was very old. Everything was very, 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 very old. So I came up with ideas of a balance. If you look at them, especially the roof area, it's a complete balance there, just to try to introduce something transitional and a little bit eclectic in the feel. Most of the materials I used are from the 2020 catalog, except some few things. If you look at the lighting and the backsplash, those little details for me in 2020 design makes the whole difference. And I hope to talk about more of my tricks and tips as we proceed here.
And we will. We have. I'm going to actually cover all of those things to get some expert advice on all those areas. On your design, Anthony, I know it's an awesome presentation and detailing. It's funny, what my favorite thing about your design is the angle from which you rendered it. It's almost just above the countertop level, and I love it because I can look directly across the countertop, see all the graining. And I want to point that out to everybody that when I do these, I try not to just do a straight-on look. I often will take a funky angle, something a little bit different, because I really think you can highlight the drawings in different ways by doing that. So awesome. So thank you, Anthony, and thank you to all of our award winners. I want to open this up now and really have a chat with our experts. We got to look at your drawings. Now, this is kind of a bonus for me because I have asked all of our winners to share some of their other renderings that they've worked on. And I'm going to walk through these, and I'm not necessarily going to ask you to talk about your rendering itself, rather how you did certain things in the rendering. So I'm going to give everybody a chance, and we have 5 people talking, and we've got a lot of great ideas to share. So we're all going to be trying to be as concise as possible. And I'm going to start with Taryn's drawing is up first. One of the things that I noticed about Taryn's drawing was the texture, and we're going to talk about textures in just a moment. So Taryn, I don't necessarily asking you to talk about the texture. but I noticed that in your drawings, you're doing a lot of modern and contemporary. And I was going to ask you a little bit about some of the trends. It looks from your drawings like these synchronized, engraved, embossed, like textured melamines seem to be really popular. Is that something you find really popular?
Yeah, we are definitely doing a lot more of the synthetic materials. We also have a rough chic style that we do as well. It's all within our manufacturer's ideas.
In your catalog. Now, when you and I talked, I thought you mentioned something about you actually go out and import some of the textures for the doors yourself. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. So to get the correct rendering of those textures, I either take a photo of the door sample that we have here in the office, or I find something online that's very similar, and then I actually sometimes take 2 or 3 different views of that texture, and then I rotate those within the different cabinets so that it's not all just one direct grain all the way across.
Cool. So you're actually going through and applying textures individually on doors. You're actually picking a texture in some of these kitchens.
Yeah, for the most part.
That's pretty cool. Now, when I want to bring Kaylee in just for a second. When Kaylee and I talked about trends, you said you're doing a lot of two-tone kitchens. And Kaylee, you mentioned that you really like to either use catalogs that have an A, B, or a C version, or you even set your own catalogs up to work that way. Is that correct?
Yep, that's true. I've noticed that a lot of manufacturer catalogs have on their dealer-only websites that you can download a regular catalog, an A and a B, so that you can incorporate those multiple colors, because that's really popular right now.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know how to do that, because when everybody's offering these tips, I'm going to jump in and try to let everybody know exactly where you can do this. In Catalog Tools, you can go to Catalog Tools, and there's a feature called Rename. You can actually take your cabinet manufacturer's catalog and rename it. Let's say that your cabinet manufacturer is called XYZ Cabinets. You can actually rename that XYZ2, and then if you take the catalog and reload it, you'll actually have an XYZ and an XYZ2, so that you can pick one door style and finish from one catalog and another door style and finish from another catalog and mix them in the same kitchen. So that's Catalog Tools. So awesome recommendation. And actually, I'm going to stick with Kaylee for just a second, because yours happens to be the next picture. Kaylee's showing a before and after rendering here. And I'm going to ask a bunch of you some questions about tiling. I want to spend some time on tiling. Before I do that, though, Kaylee, on the left you have your before, on the right you have your after. You mentioned to me that the countertops look a little bit different because you do a drawing and then afterwards the customer was selecting the countertop. So you added the countertop texture later. But what really caught my eye was your subway tiling, how clean the lines are. Would you share a little bit about how you get such a clean look with tile?
Yeah, I think I said it in my intro, but when I am looking for a texture online, I add seamless to my verbiage. So subway tile texture seamless is what I would search, and I find specific ones that I like using more than others. And so that's what you see in that drawing. I just imported a seamless subway tile texture, and I'll save it to my desktop, and then when I'm using it in 2020, I pull that up from my folder of textures that I have saved.
So if you look at my screen right now, I've actually gone into Google and typed in seamless tile, and if I click on images, it'll bring up seamless tiles, which makes it a lot easier to place the tiles in the room. And you said you happen to use seamless subway, so we would do the same thing. And you also mentioned saving them to a folder. Now, Jessica, when I was talking to Jessica earlier, she was talking about that she goes to websites and does something similar. Jessica, you said you bring colors up and then you use snip to snip them. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'll go to the manufacturer's website or whatever, wherever I can find it, and then I use the snipping tool to just snip the little image of it, and then I save it and then import it into the textures.
Got it. And if you've never used snip before, you can actually go down to the bottom of the screen where it says Ask Me Anything and just type in snip, and it'll bring up a snipping tool, and you can actually cut out the piece of molding that you want and save it to a folder on your computer. Jen talked about using the surface tool as well. Matter of fact, I think my next kitchen is actually going to be Jen's kitchen. We used a lot of metal in the room. But Jen, you said you used the surface tool to apply them to the walls. Is that correct?
Yeah, find that it's the best way to get the exact placement of things into the elevations is definitely surface tool and then changing the materials. And I also use a lot of the imported materials.
Got it. And surface tool is actually found under the items tab. It's right here. I actually have a surface on the screen right now, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into its attributes real quick. And I want to talk about this just for a moment. Here's actually an image of the tile. This happens to be Anthony's kitchen right now I'm looking at. But if I go into the variables and I click on the Browse button, I want you to notice that the surface tool opens up and you have our textures from 2020, the textures in the current design, and also the user texture. So both Jessica and Jen and Kaylee, all three of them actually mentioned that they save textures in folders. If I click on the folder right here, you'll actually see a folder that's on my computer. So let me scroll down to my 2020 files. Let me go into my textures. That's actually a folder that I created. And I'm going to go into wall tile, and you see tiles that I import in. And by the way, I'm not going to ask everybody about every section, so based on some of the feedback I got earlier, but I do want to bring Anthony into the conversation in a moment, because Anthony made a comment to me when we talked earlier, something I thought was awesome. He told me, I asked him how he found the best textures, and he told me, I think it was that a good designer is always looking for the next best texture. Is that right, Anthony?
Yeah, definitely. Every moment you have, you need to keep looking for texture. Especially like what the other lady said just now, seamless textures are very, very important. And you can as well crop your texture in a very nice way that once it overlaps, it doesn't really appear that bad.
Very good, very good. And you're saving those in a folder, which I do often. I just find a texture and I save it in the folder so I can always add it from the texture file here. Let's go back over to the PowerPoint here, and let me move into the next category, which is I want to show Jennifer's drawing, I should say, not necessarily the next category. But in Jennifer's drawing, I have a couple of points I want to mention. Number one, Jen, you mentioned to me that I think this is metal on the back of your island. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And you also use metal in the ceiling. It's a little bit hard to see here, but you also use metal in the ceiling, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Those are both miscellaneous shapes on the top, and then I just went into my catalog. I'm using Woodmode's catalog, and just in variables changed the textures of basic doors to the same. I believe it was the polished brass.
Got it. Now you mentioned miscellaneous shapes. So there's a lot of things I've noticed in all of your drawings are built that you've added that are squares or even actually radiuses and so forth. And I believe that most of you are actually pulling them out of one of two catalogs. You're either going to the room top catalog, and under countertops, you're going to countertops, and you're going to miscellaneous top and using a user shape or a 3D shape, and then you're modifying the depth and the width and the height, and then you're applying a texture to it. Or, and what's cool about a shape that you use under the countertop catalog is you have full ability to radius those as well. Or you might be going up to, I think one of our presenters, one of our experts mentioned in the very beginning that they go to the architectural elements catalog, which is under room. If you go to architectural elements, there are features in here, including, I think it was actually Jennifer's ceiling she was talking about. There's also items in here for ceiling moldings, and even an item in here called custom shapes that you can use to make just about any type of material or shape that you want in your drawings. Now, also, Jennifer, in your kitchen here, let me go back to the rendering just for a moment. Countertop caught my eye, and I want to talk to everybody a little bit about countertops. Love the countertop here on our top surface, but after looking at this, I really noticed that you have a glass countertop in here. How did you make that glass?
It's just I put a basic drag and drop countertop in there, and then adjusted through variables the thickness of it down to, I don't know, maybe it was 1/2 of an inch or something like that. And I chose to actually make it mirror. so that it would have a really reflective property and not kind of fade away the way that a basic glass top would, or a clear glass top.
Oh, cool, cool. And that's actually something that Jessica mentioned to me as well. Jessica, you talked about you like to bring images in and you like to change the appearance of the image, whether it's glossy or not.
Yes, I did find like flooring, it really looks more realistic if you add a little gloss to it, because then you get the reflection of all the things in the kitchen.
Yeah, let me show everybody where you would do something like that. I'm actually going into the attributes on this countertop here. When you go into variables and you click on the texture itself, when you bring a texture in here into the user texture section, when you click on it, there's actually an option here called appearance. And you can click on that appearance, click on browse, and you can choose to whether you want it to be flat or eggshell or glossy. Does anybody want to jump in just for a second? And do you have any recommendations on what you'd like to make glossy in a room?
I love to make ceilings much glossier than I probably would do in real life, because I feel like that way you get a lot of light reflection.
Okay, awesome. And who was that?
That was Jen.
Jen, okay. All right. Just, it's hard for everybody to tell everybody apart, so just announce your names that come in. Awesome. So you use glossy ceilings. That's interesting. Anybody else? Any other comments on that?
Yep, this is Taryn. I definitely like to have the higher sheen on the countertops, because most of the granites and the quartz and solid surfaces have that sheen to them as well.
Yep, cool. And I will tell you, from my perspective, I typically make countertops very glossy. I like appliances to be reflective, but unless it's a modern kitchen like we're looking at right now, unless it's a modern kitchen, I actually take and make my cabinets a little bit flat. That way I don't have too much reflection in the cabinetry itself. Cool. Countertops itself, I noticed, and this is really interesting, I noticed talking to you all that most of you are actually using the countertops and trim feature to place countertops in a room. I thought that was interesting because I almost exclusively use the countertop wizard myself. I know some of you talked about you like the flexibility and the fact that you can go get a texture, any texture you want. Would somebody want to jump in and tell me where you find your countertop textures if you're not using Countertop Wizard?
Yeah, this is Kaylee, and again, I would either go to the manufacturer's webpage or just Google the texture image. I've been doing that a lot for Cambria, but now it's awesome because Cambria is in the Wizard, so I think I'm going to start using that more because it creates a more accurate representation of it with the larger format textures and everything within the countertop.
Got it. Excellent, excellent. So, so you actually go to the actual manufacturer itself and find that. That's cool.
Yep.
So let me move on to the next one. I'm going to go to Anthony's kitchen for just a moment. I'm sorry, Anthony's bathroom. Let me take that one more time. The closet. Anthony actually has a bathroom later on in this I want to show you. You'll notice, I've noticed in a lot of the drawings, we have a lot of other rooms in there. Anthony, this is a closet that you've done. Where did you choose the closet material to do this?
Closet material came from the manufacturer.
Okay.
That's Wellborn. Yeah, that's Wellborn cabinetry.
Also, you're using their closet catalog from the manufacturer.
Yes. Yeah. This was done with Flex.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you apply all the textures and all that to it, then most of the trick will come in from lighting actually, and so you can, and then the angles at which you take this, the rendering, the angles are very, very important. It helps to focus on certain areas, and then that pops it up.
Cool. And I just wanted to take a second on that because we spend all of our time looking at kitchens, and Anthony submitted this closet, so I wanted to throw that in just for a second. Do any of our other experts have any points you'd like to add when it comes to other rooms? And that's okay, because I really want to move to my next subject. This is a rendering that Jessica sent over to me, and I included it because it's a rendered with our outlines, and I use this a lot. I think that it allows people to see a lot of detail. And I'm actually not going to ask Jessica to talk about this rendering. This rendering, though, clicked in my head when I saw it about how important it is about how we present the customers. And I know a lot of you are looking about moving into virtual reality, 360-degree perspectives and so forth for clients. Jessica's showroom actually presents in VR. And I wanted to give Jessica an opportunity to kind of share with us what she does. So Jessica, do you tell me how you present drawings to your clients?
Yes. We'll sit down for the initial consultation, and we have the big TV screen that we go through, and we'll show them the floor plan and some perspectives. And then usually towards the end, we'll show them a virtual reality 360. And it's not their kitchen. It's usually the one that we won in the transitional category with. But we show them an example of what it can look like, and then we use that as a closing tool as, you know, if we get a retainer, we can do this for your kitchen so you can take it home and see how, actually stand in your space and see how it'll look.
So I actually brought up a 360 of the rendering I currently have on my screen, which is actually Anthony's previous rendering. And so if I'm your customer or potential customer, when I walk in, you show me a 360 of somebody else's kitchen and say, this is what we're going to do for you?
Yes.
Awesome. Now, how do you present to? Do you use Oculus? Do you use plastic goggles? What do you do?
We just have a plastic goggle that we picked up at Best Buy or whatever, that we have 6 of them, 5 of them. We have a bunch of them laying around the showroom, and we did a home show a couple weekends ago, and we brought those to the home show too, and that was a big hit, that people could see that.
Oh, that's cool. And I was lucky enough, I actually got to see Jessica at an NKBA meeting in Chicago the other day, and she'll tell you I carry goggles with me as well, because I think that is a great way to show renderings. I want to jump back up to Taryn for just a second. Taryn, you talked about having a presentation room, and it's important to me not just to be able to create a great rendering, but really use that rendering to sell and to be able to set the right expectations for your clients. Could you tell all of us how you present your renderings?
Yeah, definitely. So we do have a presentation room where we have a couple of computer screens up on the wall just to make the images larger for them to see. And we actually start with the hidden line perspectives of their kitchens. And as we are talking to them, they may want to change one of the cabinets from a door drawer cabinet to a bank of drawers. And so then we, in that meeting, make those changes, and then it's a live rendering, so it changes it right on the perspective for them to see, so that they can make decisions with us on how the functionality should work with those things. And then once we have those, we have some color renderings that we put together ahead of time for the meeting, and then we can present those as well.
Cool. And you said something that's really important. I don't know how many people out there realize this, but if you take a dual screen and you put a perspective on a 50-inch television on the wall and you make changes on the floor plan, the perspective changes too. It's a dynamic perspective, which is unique in our industry and what we do, and it makes for an awesome presentation. Now, you mentioned a retainer fee, and I also had Jen mention that she takes a retainer fee up front too. Is that correct, Jen?
That is correct, yes.
And you took it one step further. You talked about you take a retainer fee, you present, but not only do you present to someone, but you actually share the drawings through social media with them?
Yeah, occasionally we do put things up on the Instagram account of our renderings. We got pretty good response to them. A lot of the times people don't even realize they're looking at something that's not real.
Right. No, that's awesome. It's funny. I was actually showing something the other day, and I had the same thing. Somebody couldn't tell if it was real or not. Now, I want to go to Kaylee for just a second. Kaylee started off, said, I think you said the first thing was you provide paper, but then you move into the closing room as well, and you said you like to create action in drawings to excite people in the design?
Yep, we do the same thing, show it on a large TV in our conference room. We'll also have a couple printed out for them on paper so that they can see, and it's just so exciting for them. I mean, the other day I had a meeting, and one of the little kids was like, "Oh, is that our kitchen? We have to have that. Mom and Dad, you have to do it, whatever." He just got so excited about it, and everyone loved it. And it took him a second to realize, oh, that's our kitchen. You did that for us, and it really just excites them. So.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I see that too, more and more showrooms. I actually call it the coffee shop showroom. People will have sofas and big screens on the wall. They'll sit around with a cup of coffee, and that's how they present their images. I think that's awesome. And I want to move over to Anthony to kind of wrap this up. And I'm not going to ask everybody questions about each one of these topics, but in this case I do, because each one of you, I think, has a phenomenal way that you present. Now, Anthony does something a little bit different. I know Kaylee mentioned to me that you send a digital PDF. I know Anthony mentioned to me that he does this, and I'm going to have Anthony add one other thing to this. Anthony likes to go into his images, and at the top of the screen, there's a little diskette right here in the upper left-hand corner. When Anthony clicks on that, he actually chooses a high-definition JPEG, not just a PDF. And I think that if you're not doing that, if people don't realize that this gets there, you're missing out, because that's what really helps take your image to that photorealistic level when you hand it to somebody, by clicking on that diskette. But Anthony, do me a favor. Would you expand a little bit on the the video presentations you provide?
Oh, that's an amazing one. Most clients are usually stunned when they see you take very high resolution images and then you create like a video movie kind of slide file for them. It's very interesting, and then because you get to talk with the client, sometimes I chip in the kind of music because I tend to find out their tone. So once you put that tone in for the background of the image and the slideshow, it knocks them out. See, it's a wow thing for them. So that's how I do some of those amazing presentations as well.
And actually, when I first heard about Anthony's drawings, when I Googled him, the YouTube video showed up for his clients, and I thought that was really unique and a special way of presenting. So again, all five of you just do phenomenal jobs on presenting, because it's not just creating a great image, it's how we connect and engage our clients to it. And I think a lot of designers, when we go through and I see what people are doing, they miss out on that end of it. And I just want to congratulate you all on what phenomenal jobs you do in presentation besides design. Now I want to move over to, actually the next drawing is Kaylee's. And in Kaylee's drawing, I noticed a number of things here that I believe come from our cloud catalog. And Kaylee, I understand that you use our cloud catalog a lot.
Yes. Yep.
And what do you use it for?
A lot of decor items. It's just nice that it's there, it's on the side, quickly, easy to access, and you can see everything that you're working with and all the different items. The appliances are great, and it's always being updated, so you don't have to worry about it being dated or anything. And another big thing that I use in this, it's actually not loading on my screen, but I know what I'm talking about, is I import a lot of items from Sketchup, which is really helpful to get the exact lighting that you're using, or the stools and things like that.
Great, great, awesome. You said the image is not loading on your screen. Are any of our other presenters having trouble seeing the images?
It's fine.
I'm assuming that's a no.
Okay.
Okay.
There it is. It's fine now.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody's not experiencing what you just mentioned. So, okay, so I'm going to actually jump into the next one, which is Taryn's drawing, and I want to stay on that decorative theme. One of the really cool things, I'm going to talk a little bit about importing SketchUp shapes and so forth too. I was really blown away by Taryn's design here and her use of decorations, and I'm looking at these vases or vases, depending on where you're from. And when I was talking to Taryn, she was telling me that she often takes images from our generic, just our regular 2020 furniture catalogs, and you modify the textures to create a different feel to those images. Could you share a little bit more about that, Taryn?
Yeah, definitely. So those two vases are actually in that generic decorative folder or catalog, and I went
right here. These right here. Yep.
Yep. I went to the attributes, and then I changed the textures of them, and each one actually has two different textures to it. and I went into the glass texture, and I actually added a tinted glass to both sides of those, and so the bottoms of the vases are actually like a bright green tinted glass, which actually showed up more as the seafoam color in the end, and then the top is a gray tinted glass.
Yeah. And I know Jen mentioned that you do the same thing. Is that correct, Jen?
Yeah, I find that just the basic 2020 catalogs offer a great amount of flexibility. If a green pepper looks better in a design than a red pepper, you can change that over, or even coordinate the wood with, the grains that you have going on in your kitchen.
Right. Right. Awesome. And I will tell you, all the years I used 2020, I modify textures constantly, but I never really modified the textures of the items you guys are talking about. Once I saw them in your drawings, I noticed how much more realistic the room became, and I wanted to make sure everybody was able to share from that. Now, Jessica talks about, when we talked, you talked about you like to do little things that allow people to connect, like put a pet dish in a room or something like that.
Yes, we try to make, them emotionally invested. So if the customer really likes horses, we'll put a picture on the wall with horses, or put horses on the TV, and really make it personalized.
And I noticed the one drawing Anthony had in the very beginning, he put a hockey game on the TV, didn't you, Anthony?
Yes, I did.
And also, when you talk about applying textures, I'm going to switch back to my 2020 for a second. One of the things Anthony does is he doesn't only place textures on items. If you take a look at his drawing, he draws these pieces out here. Anthony, what are these? What are these shapes on the outside of the room that you've attached?
Those are, I forgot the name now. If you go into the window section, the scenery.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. User code. You just added scenery out there.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. And if you go in and take a look at it, he actually applies scenery outside of the room. And what's really interesting, and when he applies a texture like that, is when you stand inside of that room and you rotate, if you're standing here, you can actually see the ceiling through the window. But if you move to the left, of course mine's not rendering right now, but if you move to the left, you actually will see it change just like it would in a real window. I thought that was a really cool way to do that. Now, I know a number of you are using Sketchup files, and some of you gave me some really good tips. I know Jen mentioned that she doesn't use Sketchup because you think the files are a little bit big. Is that correct, Jen?
Yeah, I find that it's really limited what my computer can handle when it comes to SketchUp. You have to kind of pick a lot of the simpler items.
Yeah, and Kaylee actually gave me a very similar answer to that, but Taryn does use it a lot, and so does Jen. And Taryn, when you're using SketchUp, you had a couple of recommendations for me concerning SketchUp.
Yeah, with SketchUp, I tend to open a blank 2020 document to import them in first, and within that I can find out what the right scale is and what textures and things that work with that, and then when I'm ready for that texture, I will then import it into my drawing, and I will have all of those little details already figured out, and then I can just kind of place it in where it needs to be, and I don't have to worry about that slowing down my actual drawing that I want to present.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent because, like many of you, and I think I actually misquoted Jen here just a moment ago, but many of you mentioned about how big those files are, so you put it into a different drawing to be able to scale it the way you want before you add it to the drawing. You also mentioned that you save it as in one of the idea files, which I do as well. I think that's awesome. But Anthony, you do a lot of SketchUp imports, and you told me that when you SketchUp, there's a few things you look for in that particular file, and what is that?
SketchUp files can tend to be very heavy, and so you still need, we're going to talk about computers, that's a different thing. But if you're specifically looking for items on the SketchUp, you need to check the polygon level, the quantity of the polygon in that image. The higher the polygon, the heavier the file is going to be. So you have to look for something that's, very reasonable in size, and then, basically avoid all those twists and all those wings, kind of slow down the whole system entirely. So those are the little things I look at on a SketchUp. More important.
Got it. And Anthony, you mentioned computer. I want to point two things out here on computers for everyone. Number one, you are using, let me go back here. Who's using a Mac? Is that Jessica's using a Mac?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that's why I was getting you guys mixed up. I apologize. So Jessica, you're using a Mac for all of your drawings.
Yes.
And your experience is?
I mean, I used it with Boot Camp on the Windows side, but I have very little problems. It doesn't crash. It doesn't. I mean, it's been an upgrade from what we had before.
Good, awesome. And Anthony, I've talked to Anthony many times, and Anthony, every time I talk to him, the first thing he tells me is when I ask him about how do you get great renderings, he goes, computer, computer, computer. Anthony, would you tell us a little bit about, why you say that?
Yes, the strength of all your graphics is centered on computer. The bigger the computer, the better for you. For me, I will not use any computer unless the NVIDIA GTX graphic card is less than a 1080, and you must have a very solid, ample external memory in terms of its dedicated graphics for it. That's very important. And also, above all, the processor speed of your CPU is the key to everything here. So in terms of the speed, my processor speed is not less than 4 gigahertz. And my graphic card is a GTX 1080. It's a new one though, but I've not tested that. So that's the latest for now.
Cool. And I'm a big believer in that too. And for everybody, because I want to move on to the next items, but for everybody who's looking at computers, I will tell you the computer I'm running right now has a 4K screen, and it has everything that Anthony just said. And I also believe that that's really a key to getting these great drawings. Anthony, were you about to add one other item? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's it. That's about it. Nothing.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm looking at my time. I see I have 10 minutes left with everybody. So I have two big subjects I want to get to. Then we're going to finish. So Anthony, we're looking at one of your kitchens, but I'm not going to ask you any questions about this. I'm actually going to jump and ask a couple questions and then have you kind of back clean up on this one. This kitchen is phenomenal in many ways, but I like the clarity and the colors and so forth. Anthony just mentioned the computer and how he renders that, and that's really what I wanted to focus on is if you look at the clarity in the glass and you look at the clarity in the paint and even the clarity in the outlets and so forth, much of that depends on the quality of the output that your computer can give you. And I can definitely see a difference in output based on somebody's computer. But I just wanted to mention that I know, Anthony just has an awesome computer, and you definitely see the results in everything that we're doing there. Now, I'm actually going to move on to the next item, and I want to talk about Jennifer's kitchen here just for a moment. And Jennifer is showing us a before and after the way Kaylee did before. And Jennifer, I'm actually not going to ask you any questions about this one either. I'm going to come back to you at the end. I want to kind of close with you when it comes to lighting. But in this image, I want to go back and talk a little bit about your favorite ways to light. I know Jessica mentioned that she likes to turn the ambient light all the way up. Why is that, Jessica?
I just find it overall lights up the space better and gives a general lighting and doesn't make it too orange or makes it look more realistic.
Right. So you go into the light bulb in your 2020, you click on the light bulb, you go to scene, and then you move the ambient light pretty high.
Yeah.
And you find that you're doing a lot of the 360 panoramas. And you think that helps your 360 panoramas too?
Yeah, because those need to be pretty light to see it.
Got it. I agree. And Kaylee, it's funny because that's one of the things you said to me as well. You said that you like to make the room bright. You want to raise the ambient light. Is it for the same reasons?
Yep, that's correct. The ambient light along with the sun, but making sure that it's placed in a way that's not completely just making it look unrealistic or too bright, but just to have those sun rays shining in, I think helps a lot too.
And what do you mean about not being too bright with the sun? What do you mean by that?
I just kind of test it out and see where the sun shines in, but sometimes it just completely will white out a cabinet, so you just have to be strategic about where you're placing the sun.
Got it. And Anthony, you mentioned that you use sunlight a lot too, and you move it around. Anthony? All right, well, Anthony, if you could jump back in, and we might have lost you there for a second. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. So in your rooms, you said you use sunlight, but you also use this feature, I believe, the ceiling light. You use it as a spotlight to highlight certain areas in your room. You like to move that around, if I remember correctly.
Not really the ceiling light. It's a spot for you.
You know what? I apologize. I know what you were talking about. You are using these recessed lights.
Yes, I do. I use a lot of the recessed light, and I hide them from the display texture. So that really, really changes the way the ambient light is maximized. So
got it. So you'll add your own light, but you don't want the light to actually appear in the drawing. So you will do one of two things. You'll either right-click on it. You'll go down to the display settings. Yep. And under display settings, you'll turn the item off so it's not on the display on the floor plan, correct?
Yes. And then in the 3D, if you don't want it to appear, you have to go to the variables under its attributes. And then.
So you actually go to attributes, you go to variables, you go to properties, and right here where it says display 3D, you turn it off. That way you get light, but you don't see the light.
Correct.
Well, that's pretty cool. I don't know how many people out there knew that, but I'm going to admit something to you. I didn't know that when you first told that to me.
That's a good tip.
I
agree.
Yeah, I've been making my lights glass so that I look through them, and it's funny. It's probably been there forever, and I didn't realize that, Anthony. Awesome. Now, I know Taryn light extensively as well. Taryn, did you have things you wanted to add about? I know you talked about adding light to dark corners and such.
Yeah, definitely. So I definitely use the sunlight a lot as well, and it is all about playing around with what angles look the best for it to come in and look realistic, because it's really about having the light and shadows in the right place to make the photo really pop. I also do turn the, I play with the auto lighting intensity. I sometimes turn that down so that my overall room isn't so bright because of all the sunlight that I do play with. And then I did say that I'm the one with the ceiling light. I put that in my room as well in some angles or spots where I feel like the room is kind of dark at the, with all the sunlight and shadows and things, and I put in that ceiling light just to lighten up those spots of the rendering so that it all kind of keeps everything bright and realistic.
Yeah, cool. I moved that light around too. It's a quick way for me to highlight a dark area without having to go grab more lights. So I started to show it to you again, but it was already re-rendering, so I just stopped. I know everybody on here talked a lot about using the lighting wizard, and I know you all like to put lights inside of the cabinets. Some of you are using catalogs with LED lights where you're snapping them in. But all of you did mention that you use the lighting wizard, and mostly because it's a time-saving feature. You're doing a drawing. If you need to show great under-cabinet lighting or such real quick, you can do that with just a click of a button. Now I want to come back to Jen for just a second. I showed Jen's drawing for a reason. And I saved lighting for it because when Jen talked to me, I was really blown away about how she treats lighting in her room as one of the most important things in her room. And she kept using the word layer, layer, layer. And Jen, I want you to explain that, but I also want you to tell everybody something else. Most people, when I talk to them, they all started with, we like to make the room bright. You told me you try to make the ambient light darker. And tell me why.
Yeah, I pretty much turn off the ambient light. I like to layer the lighting the same and create drama, kind of the way that you would in real life. If it's just all one source or if it's too bright, I don't think you get to appreciate the different elements that you've placed into your design. So for this one, ambient light is completely shut off. You have, I think that there's a good level of drama that's created by the sunlight coming through the doors. And then additionally, I had imported from Sketchup pendant lights because I wanted to get a certain effect. And a lot of the times the SketchUp lights don't have light that work in them. So I use a recessed light and kind of placed it in there so that we would get that additional shadow effect onto the island. And then of course I did use Lighting Wizard for in-cabinet and under-cabinet light.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I was kind of blown away by this, and I didn't realize why I like this drawing so much. Besides, it's an awesome drawing, but I didn't realize at first but when we started talking, I was like, you know what? I love the lighting. It's that it is darker in the room, which highlights all the areas, which I do when I use LED lighting. I tend to make the room a little bit darker too, and you can actually see the reflection of the cage or the shadowing of the cage of the lights here on the countertop. And I want to point out what Jen just told us. Those lights are not 2020 lights. They actually don't have lighting components at all. Those are SketchUp images that she loaded in, but she did like Anthony, that little trick I showed you a moment ago where she placed lights where these are so that it shines down by using the generic 2020 light inside of it to be able to create that image. So she added light to the SketchUp image and was able to create the realistic shadowing on the countertop. I know a number of you also mentioned to me that you don't like to use the pucks and so forth underneath the cabinet. You don't like to show circles. I don't either. I tend to use strip lighting when I'm working too. So awesome. And we are right at the top of the hour, so I'm going to do one more thing. I have one more subject. If everybody hang on with us for just a couple more minutes. I want to talk a little bit about flooring, and this is my last slide. On flooring, I brought Anthony's kitchen up, and again, Anthony, I'm going to ask you this question last, just the way I did with Jen. But flooring is a question that I get a lot. How do you put great flooring in? And I know, Taryn, you talked about going out and finding images and having to crop them properly.
Yeah, you definitely want your flooring, especially with hardwood, to look staggered. And so when I find an image, I crop it in a way that one board isn't just going to repeat itself all the way across, and you can kind of place them where you need to so that it looks staggered and realistic.
Got it. And you mentioned a lot of trial and error in that. And Kaylee, you talked about that you actually use our floors mostly because you like the images and the way they apply.
Yep, that's true. Sometimes I will try out textures that I've gotten from the internet, but mostly I will refer back to 2020's generic flooring. I find that that's the best quality, and it's always seamless, so it just looks the greatest in my opinion.
Cool. And Jen, when you and I talked about it, you talked about when you go to floors that you actually don't pick flooring from the 2020 catalogs, you pick furniture textures.
Yeah, I find that there are a lot more options within the furniture catalog, so I overlook the flooring section for woods and go straight to furniture.
Yeah, and I'm showing that right now. When you go in and you choose wood, she actually skips floor and goes right to the furniture section and picks the wood there. And I think you told me you like to use the ash on your drawings and so forth.
Yeah, you get a lot of texture from the ashes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So now let me go back to our renderings. So we have something to look at here. Now we also have, when we're talking, Jessica mentioned to me that you guys sell flooring from your showroom too. So you're a flooring showroom.
Yes.
And you said something I thought was really cool, which I think is important in a lot of places. You said it's not just the right floor, it's picking the right finish.
Yes. I definitely think adding the right finish to whatever floor they're looking at makes a big difference, making your rendering look realistic.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to come back to Anthony last on this image because Anthony does something really detailed with floors. he actually builds floors one piece at a time. Anthony, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Because certain times you will definitely hit a rock bottom when there are no more options for you in terms of picking up those JPEG images. So I found out another way to build, but it has to be built one after the other. So I use 2020's catalog from the room texture, the editable floor tile. So I go there and set up a plank, just one piece of plank, and map out where the materials are taken from any website. And once I've done that one, I set out the grout with the scaling and all of that. Then you place it in 2020, one after the other. You can create any shape. If it's herringbone, just any shape. That's how I solve all my flooring issues. It's amazing, but it's time consuming. And remember, if you do not have a good computer, it's going to crash.
Yeah.
And,
Anthony always comes back to the computer.
No, because I've learned too much on that. I realized that you need a very solid computer to be able to handle what 2020 really can do.
Yeah, just like a good installer has the right tools, a good designer has the right tools, right, Anthony?
Definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, listen, we are just a little bit over on time. I know we've been answering some questions online for everyone. I'm going to bring this up and wrap this now. I'm going to do a few closing slides. First of all, before I do all my thank yous to everybody, we are going to email you a link of the recording of this video so that you will be able to replay it, listen to all the answers. I know there's a lot of people talking and a little different level on each person's phone and so forth. So we will be sending you out a recording so you can listen to some of those great tips again. You're already asking us some questions on there. I do also want to mention that if you are a new person looking to add 2020, which I know we have a lot of folks that are prospect to join these webinars, don't forget to reach out to us. Let us know that you attended the webinar. We do have special promotions for you. All you have to do is tell us the word webinar. We'll check it out and be able to give you a special promotion. For those of you that already own a license of 2020, you might be thinking of expanding. The same code will work. Webinar, you can get a great deal on your 2020. If you want to contact us, you can contact us at sales@2020spaces.com or 866-698-2020. I also want to encourage everybody to join our community forums. We have a wonderful community center where we share all sorts of ideas about trends, design, and 2022. You can join that for 2020spaces.com/community. And let me bring us up to our last slide. And here, I want to do a quick thank you. Before I do my thank you, I'm just going to go down our list and see if you all have anything, any closing thoughts, a real short recommendation. Let me just start with Jen. Jen, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, just thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. Jessica?
Nope, thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, I just want to say I feel like it's our responsibility as designers to guide our clients through the whole process, as kitchen renovations are no small endeavor. So we have to see ourselves as educators about not only colors and styles, but about picking the right storage solutions for their needs and laying out their space efficiently to find the right products for their project. Yeah, that's just want to say thanks again, and it's been great.
Cool. Thanks, Karen. And Kaylee?
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. This has been fun to go through, and then also just I think that it is really important to create these renderings. I mean, it helps you as a designer, and it also obviously helps your clients to visualize it, and it really excites everyone about the project. So I think it's always just a really important thing to know and keep learning about.
Awesome. And Anthony?
Yeah, just a little bit, just a quick one. Kitchen design, bathroom design, remodeling in general is expensive, and so it's worth investing in that computer that will produce that effect. That's just my advice.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. And if I could offer a couple of thank yous. First of all, I want to thank everybody who joined us today. Thank you for trying to continue to learn and be better and better at what you do. And finally, for our 5 award winners, I want to thank you, number 1, for your submittals. Number 2, I want to thank you for what you do for your customers. That's just absolutely awesome. Number 3, I want to thank you for sharing all of your expertise and brilliance with everybody who joined us today. So thank you, everyone. Have an awesome day.